not the first time that the Bible has been submitted to a rewrite, although some people don't know that there have been persons whom have attempted to gut the essential message of the Bible over and over again. The message has more or less stayed the same throughout the centuries. But now we have a philosopher, so-called, of one of the biggest globalist organizations on the face of the earth, whom is saying that the Bible will not escape the entire rewriting of its pages by none other than artificial intelligence. What does this portend for the future of Christianity? What does this portend for the message of the gospel? What does this portend for Christians themselves in the immediate and the distant future? We are here to discuss that amongst ourselves, and we invite you, our beloved audience, into the conversation. Welcome each and every one of you to this new edition of Irrespective. For those of you that might be joining us for the first time, my name is Gio, and here is my co-belligerent, and I am his, Jesus.
Good morning, friends. And for those of you that might be thinking, this will never happen, how many sermons are being preached Sunday after Sunday that are no longer the studious work of preachers? They are the studious work of AI.
Correct.
And of course, people sit there and after singing 2 or 3 Christian songs, they listen to that thinking, my pastor spent a lot of hours putting this sermon together so that I could feed on a proper and a balanced biblical message. Well, we wonder, and we have some questions, if AI has already begun taking over. And these are not my words. Taking over is the word of Mr. Harari. And I don't know if I can call him Mr. because we're talking about a gay man here.
Correct.
But I wonder how much of this taking over has taken place. And for those of you that are now thinking, why would they even bring up the opinion of a gay man in biblical issues? Well, you will understand that we have been tackling the issue of the infiltration of different elements, subversive elements in the church. And some of those elements, or some people that have been trying to do this, happen to belong to, what do they call themselves? The gay community.
Yep.
So this is something that we must take a look at. And as we take a look at this today, if time allows, I will take you into the book of Revelation and consider a few things about the false prophet. What does the Bible say about the false prophet? Because as we look towards the activities of the Antichrist, we see a lot of interesting things. But when we look at the book of Revelation and the goings on, the things that the false prophet will be doing, a lot of the really evil things like 666, creating the image of the beast, allowing the thing or getting the power to have the thing, that image to come to life, etc. Those are the doings of the false prophet. And we'll try to tackle some of that in today's edition.
Before we continue, first and foremost, a reminder to our audience. If you have not done so yet, please remember to subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Click on the thumbs up. That one's important. And to share our content with others. If you'd like to interact with us by asking us a question pertaining to the subject matter on YouTube or Rumble, please do so. We have our interface here. We're seeing when people are submitting their questions and their comments, and we will address them as best we can during the transmission. Do not forget to donate. It helps us to continue to put out this content for your edification. There's a QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen that you can scan. Conversely, there's a link underneath the video player that you can click on, which will lead you to PayPal's website, which we're using to process those donations and patronages. For those of you that have been giving, and for those of you that will give, we thank you for your support. Last but not least, do not forget to follow us on X at Irrespective77. Speaking of X, before we continue to the subject matter at hand, there was a bit of a brouhaha this past week amongst believers, more particularly based on everything that has been happening in Minneapolis in the past week and a half, close to 2 weeks. Now, well, actually a bit longer. And by the way, there are some of you whom, when I mention the word Minneapolis, you may be asking, well, to you to address the most recent incident of what happened. We're not going to do that on this edition. But
the one where the agent gets his finger bitten off, is that the one that we're not going to
that
tackling?
one hasn't taken national news as much as the shooting has of Alex Preddy. just to let the audience know, I'm going to take this issue up on a live stream that I'm going to be doing tomorrow because I think it requires further elucidation. Based on the comments that I'm seeing on social media, it seems to be a very two-sided effort here. And it ignores a lot of the things that portend to American society if we ignore them. On one side, you've got one group whom is saying ICE killed an unarmed man. There are those whom are saying, you guys are too pusillanimous. We demand mass deportations and there will be casualties that come along. I think there are more nuanced views on these matters than those whom give the immediate takes for attention and likes and whatnot. And I think it's important for us then to view these things with the nuance proper to arrive at sound judgment about these matters. So I'm going to do a live stream through my personal channels, which will be on ATA on Telegram. I'll give you those links
I won't
later.
be joining him. I'll be vacationing in Little Mogadishu.
I've heard the vacation packages are rather cheap.
Yes,
If anything, they will actually give you money from the
very
federal government
economical.
to go over there.
We will be staying in buildings that were intended to house little kids during the day, and we shall have free meals and bunk beds throughout our vacation.
And free daycare. Don't forget about
Yes,
free daycare. Where
yes.
we, by the way, we won't be taking your kids. We'll be giving them right back to you. Just give us the money. Just give us the money.
Hey, and by the way, you guys want to stay tuned to the perhaps Wednesday. I'm not going to commit to this yet because our friend Elon,
Yes. The one who called me a subhumanoid?
he went on to say that in his vision of the future, all of us will own a robot humanoid,
Yes.
and that these robot humanoids will be good for taking care of our pets,
Yep.
our kids, and our parents when they get to this
The elderly.
age
Right.
that we know or call the elderly. So you
Yes.
don't want to miss that one. It's coming up in one of our next podcasts, and it's very, very interesting the way that he basically assures people that everybody's going to own one of these. And he went on to say, Gio, there will be more humanoids than humans.
Yes, yes, he did say that. We'll address that on Wednesday. But as I said before, there was a bit of a brouhaha that happened amongst Christian X, if you can call it that, where Christians were lobbing bombs, verbal bombs to each other. And one that stood out in particular to many people was one such Gabriel Hughes, whom calls himself, among other things, a pastor. And this tweet went viral for the contents therein, and let us show it to the audience. It says, if your response, or he writes, if your response to persecution is to arm your church, laying out strategies and contingencies, while neglecting to biblically prepare your people for persecution, even though many churches in America have been doing that for many years, and it doesn't seem as if they're coping well with
And what
it.
does that look like? Preparing yourself to take a beating?
Right.
To lose everything?
Right.
That's the preparation that has to go on. Not to fight. You have to prepare to lose everything, including your life if necessary.
Right.
Because we as Christians can never challenge the status quo. We can never challenge or push
You can't
back
protect yourself,
on
you can't protect yours.
persecution. Exactly.
Remember that this is based on what happened recently where Don Lemon himself was included in all of this, where they entered into a church and they disturbed the church service. There were leftist agitators there, and it's a bunch of people whom were saying, folks, it's high time that we seek to defend ourselves and our own. And to that, this sanctimonious fellow decides
So if
to...
you have a child who's getting bullied, I like to take these things to the personal matter on the issues. If you have a child that is getting bullied, remember to train him to take all the beating.
Yes.
Never push back. Don't even report that child.
Right.
Never push back. Never say, you hit me one more time and I'm going to smack you. No, 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 no. Son, take as many beatings as you can. That way you will learn about Christian persecution and you will glorify Christ in all the beatings that you take. Okay, son? Okay, mom?
Right.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds
And then
like.
we move it all the way up.
Right. So he finishes his tweet, his screed, by saying, while neglecting to biblically prepare your people for persecution and how to respond to it, your thinking might be as Americans first, and Christians second, which is a false dichotomy when one thinks about it, as you've just aptly mentioned. But folks, we figured this is an edition in which we're going to talk about how supposedly, according to Yuval Harari, AI is going to I just pronounced that as a Chinaman. AI, AI is going to rewrite the Bible.
Take over.
Right. We had an idea. Let the audience know we are not professional computer engineers nor computer scientists. We don't engage in that. But
You
we
less
do.
than I.
Right. But we do dabble a bit in coding.
A little bit.
We do dabble in coding. So we thought, why don't we create our own program, our own interface via artificial intelligence? I will warn the audience that this is a bit primitive. It's going to look as if we're returning to the days of MS-DOS and the early Apple computers. But we thought, why don't we craft our own program?
I missed the floppy disk.
What was that?
I missed the floppy disk.
The bigger ones or the smaller ones?
No, the bigger
ones. The bigger ones, right? The big black ones, right? That barely held any information on them. You needed multiple just to get to maybe 50 megabytes. Well, we decided to craft our own program. And folks, we'd like to introduce it to the audience. What we're going to do is, the idea is to introduce these tweets into the interface, and the AI is going to brainiac it, as it were, and give us a conclusion as to how we should think, what we should think about these people and their tweets. Shall we try it?
I think so.
Okay, here we go. Let's
do this.
I need to upload it. Give me a chance here, folks. You'll notice it. Run. There it is. There it is. We call it Pastor Predictor, folks. That's what we call it.
PP, Pastor Predictor.
Right. Pastor Predictor. Let me go ahead and here's the command. Take the following tweet from this pastor and give us a determination on how to classify him. I have to write these things out. Like I said, it's a very, very primitive interface here. Let me go ahead and drag the tweet over. Let me click on it. It's calculating. Here we go.
Why are you gay? You are gay. Lesbian? Homosexual?
Evidently, the Pastor Predictor thought that the guy, that Gabriel Hughes, is a homosexual. By the way, folks, you can't make this up. After people started ratioing him in the comment section, he decides to write this tweet out. You cannot have a peaceful discussion with a brother in the Lord instead of calling him gay and effeminate because you don't like his opinion, then it may be the case that he's not your brother because you're probably with the accuser of the brethren. So I guess we're Satanists all of a sudden. He says, repent. You can imagine the additional ratioing that he received on his comments.
You know, I've had an issue with people that get out in the social media world, and then their skin is so thin that they cannot take any pushback.
Correct. Well said.
And then they go into these comments like, you shouldn't be doing this to me. If you get out in the social media world, you need to understand that if you put out content, people are going to analyze it, examine it, and push back.
That's that simple.
If you can't participate in the arena, stay out of the arena.
There it is, folks. Our new AI. We will improve the interface soon enough. We do have many other things that we have to tend to, but I hope that the audience was able to enjoy the first iteration of Pastor Predictor.
I would like to check out a few of the pieces or quotes that come out of Bethel.
Oh boy, I think we might overload the system. Oh my goodness.
Here we go.
All right, folks. So we have this video for our audience. And again, let me go ahead and play let me give you the background of what is happening here before we play it, because out of context, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. When you think about the World Economic Forum, we're talking about an organization that is essentially globalist. Now, some of you have noticed that have been keeping tabs on this, that a guy by the name of Klaus Schwab, who was the director of the very same, has been a lot less visible in the forefront of the thing. That's because a lot of his staffers and a lot of people whom worked for him have accused him of engaging in sexual improprieties, and he had to step down, although he's still an active part behind the scenes of the organization.
And when Christians think of globalists, you have to bring into the conversation whatever your views are, your understanding is of biblical prophecy as it pertains to end times, because we are talking about, after all, a one world government. That's what the Bible seems to be pointing to will be happening in end times, and a one world religion. So it's not that we want to force the Bible into these topics. It's that we are basically invited, obligated to analyze these conversations and these quotes and the proceedings of these organizations, because the Bible does talk about what will be going on in end times.
Right. So you have to consider that in light of all this, Davos recently had its annual meeting, or they had it at Davos, the World Economic Forum, and most of the world's, as it were, bigwigs, whether it be politicians from the financial sector or whatnot, they go there. It's a self-congratulatory event, and then they talk about what they have for the future of the world, because these people in essence see themselves as the autocrats and the oligarchs of society. Well, lo and behold, you have a situation where they have a resident philosopher. That's the way that they denominate this guy that you're going to see on video shortly, Noah Yuval Harari. The guy is an avowed homosexual, but a Jewish homosexual. That doesn't surprise us in any way, shape, or form.
Who had to step out of Israel to get married because they wouldn't marry him over there. I think
Correct.
he got married in Canada and then made his way back to Israel.
Correct. So among the things that this guy has been promoting has been universal basic income, the digitization of everything, the elimination of private property, so on and so forth. So, but using utopian language to give the impression that this is what people will eventually want. Matter of fact, he himself, we have quoted him as saying, the video is out there for anyone that wants to look it up, where he says, it'd be best that in the future, once we have arrived at the singularity, as they call it, as a transhumanist will call it, it's best that we just give certain people sterilizers and give them their video games and food so that they die off, because they're going to be unnecessary humans. We can just let them die off. This is the so-called resident philosopher of the World Economic Forum.
So this is the future. They're planning, they're preparing for us. And in that future, Elon says abundance will not be available to all. So the
Right.
dream of having abundance, these people that are thinking up the future for us, they're saying you're basically going to get a check, you get to exist, not multiply yourself, and you will be happy with that because abundance will not be available
Right.
for all. And my take from that, Gio, is they won't even make the possibility of abundance available to humans.
Correct. So it is in the midst of all of this, please, this is why we gave you the background out of all of this, where Yuval Harari, then he takes the stage and there's this giant screen behind him and he begins to give this presentation on how AI is supposedly going to improve all of our existence, because if we just let it take its natural course, it will eventually provide humanity with an improvement, as it were, for itself. But he places this comment in the midst here. Let me make sure that the video
Keep
is...
your ears peeled to the words taking over, taking over. It's
Right.
very important.
Right. Let me go ahead and play it here. Just give me a second here. For whatever reason, it seems like I'm having an issue with the... I do have it as a backup here on my screen. Just give me a second. Let me just bring it up here. Hold on. I have a second screen, a backup just in case. It seems like our processing in the background here is giving us an issue. Okay, nope, my mistake. Here it is.
Do you know? As far as putting words in order is concerned, AI already thinks better than many of us. Therefore, anything made of words will be taken over by AI. If laws are made of words, then AI will take over the legal system. If books are just combinations of words, then AI will take over books. If religion is built from words, then AI will take over religion. This is particularly true of religions based on books, like Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. Judaism calls itself the religion of the book, and it grants ultimate authority not to humans, but to words in books. Humans have authority in Judaism not because of our experiences, but only because we learn words in books. Now, no human can read and remember all the words in all the Jewish books, but AI can easily do that. What happens to a religion of the book when the greatest expert on the holy book is an AI?
So you see what he's trying to peddle here. First and foremost, allow me to give a bit of a background here to get a proper understanding of what he's attempting to convince people that we need. First and foremost, you have to understand that artificial intelligence, the way that these people will present it to you, is a sentient thing because it's an ever learning programming, as it were. But as we have stated before, contrary to what the Silicon Valley tech types and others are attempting to sell the audience or the peoples of the earth on with respect to AI being this super brain that can accomplish much more than people collectively can. In reality, all it is there's a reason why they call these digitizations large language models. They're just sucking up a lot of information that appears on the internet. But there's the added thing that the engineers whom craft these so-called AI models, they're already giving it certain parameters through which to work with and by. So you have, as it were, human design in the artificial intelligence. It doesn't matter how much they try to sell you on the idea that these large language models will eventually become sentient. That's not the way that it works. However, it's not stopping them from trying to convince you that these artificial intelligences, as it were, they themselves are human. The personhood should be granted to them in some way, shape, or form.
Propaganda is already going on. You heard him talk about the AI thinking.
Right.
And so by propaganda, I mean, they're getting us used to the idea of whatever we come up with, and by we, I mean humans, AI will come up with a better idea, thought about it more deeply, more profoundly. Therefore, incline yourselves to accept what AI is telling you to do, recommending that you do, instead of trusting your own reasoning and understanding.
But if you think about it, that's essentially part of the entire presentation. There's no need then for you to use your mental faculties. There's no need to use common sense. There's no reason for you to use deductive abilities. Don't exercise those. Just let us and our products do that for you. That's step number one in the equation that we're trying to paint for the audience as to why they're attempting to convince you that this is a good thing. Now, having said what we just said, please consider then, if there are people that are still behind the scenes engineering the artificial intelligence, one has to ask themselves, what are the beliefs of the people whom are putting together these artificial intelligences?
Most especially when he emphasizes religion.
Right. Exactly.
Because they will put their bent on whatever information is being dished out by AI, but notice the emphasis on words, and then he moved it very strongly into the category of religion and AI taking over religion. He mentioned Islam,
right,
Christianity, and Judaism.
I laugh because what he is promoting has already been done before. Now, I don't want people to think that I'm diminishing the error of his ways. I'm just saying that when you know a little bit of history, you understand that what he's trying to do and present as this novel idea has already been undertaken in the past. If we go back to the 1st century, the Apostle Paul was already dealing with a group called the Gnostics, whom they were taking his letters, falsifying them as if he were sending them out and saying, this is in fact what Paul is teaching. Sure, digitization was not a thing, computers was not a thing, but people were trying to, as it were, take the original message and alter it. This is no different, folks. It just has a different window dressing. But here's the essential problem that I see. Just like many Christians, unfortunately, have been deceived. I mean, Jesus himself says this, and I'm not wrong in pointing this out. Jesus talks about that if it were possible for the elect, he's talking about Christians, for the elect to be deceived, that the deceivers, they engage in these sorts of tactics. So if they were doing it in the past, people like Yuval Harari, the World Economic Forum, and others have done so. We don't even need to go far. It happens within our own circles. How do we explain, how do people whom were to challenge us on what we're saying now explain that a guy like Kenneth Copeland, the faith healers, as it were, Joel Osteen, whomever you want to talk about the Signs and Wonders movement and the Norman Vincent Peales of life and others, how is it that they would take the actual text of the Bible, not rewrite it in a sense, but then give it a different interpretation to give cover for whatever falsehood that they are promoting? And Christians, or self-avowed Christians, they end up falling for the false reinterpretation. We're not talking about a rewriting. We're just talking about a reinterpretation of what appears in the text. So I'm not diminishing. I don't want people to think that I'm diminishing the error of the way, the seditiousness, as it were, of the matter. But I'd also like the audience to get a proper perspective of this, that what Yuval Harari, the World Economic Forum, and others are attempting to do here via the window dressing of artificial intelligence has already happened before. It's not the first time that they attempt to rewrite the Bible.
So I will allow myself the use of an illustration. We in this country have yielded proper nutrition to the companies that have told us we will make sure that you eat proper meals, nutritious meals. And so we said, yeah, why not? That way mom can work, dad can work, the kids can work, and these great companies who are only thinking of us, they will prepare our meals. Decades later, we find that they are killing us.
You don't like your yellow number 5 or your red number 40?
They're killing us. What makes you think that people that have been bent out of shape trying to move Christianity out of the way, is when you think about it, the other two, Islam and Judaism, their main focus is to get Christians out of the way.
Right.
So stay with my illustration. What would make you think that all these programs that even pastors, churches are using are not slowly but surely pushing out true Christianity out of the way?
Yeah.
And you're eating on what? What are you feeding on? Is it a true biblical message, something that came from the Holy Spirit to the heart of the preacher, to the heart of the pastor? Or is it AI driven? This is why when I heard Harari talking about taking over, a few questions hit my mind immediately. And one of them is the following. How is it that AI will take over religion? Because it'll take over words by arguing that after examining all available documents, something AI can do easily, Joe.
Mhm.
It has taken me years to read a lot of books so I can become informed and therefore provide a more informed opinion. Well, AI can do this real quickly. Then the AI rendered version should be the most trusted because AI will argue, the people behind the scenes, the people that program AI will argue, it went through all the material that is
Right.
available and it came up with this conclusion.
What you're
Except-
explaining is what Harari is attempting to package. This is what the process under which they're
except
taking
that
so far.
that conclusion
Yeah.
wasn't really AI.
Right.
It was
already directed.
what was set up in the algorithm to get you to believe it.
Exactly.
And just like you are consuming all kinds of processed foods that are killing you, this stuff will push you away from Christ, push you away from the Bible. You will consume this. Many of you will consume this. No matter how many times we warn you, you will consume this because it's a lot easier
Right.
to just listen to 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of whatever they have to say. It's a lot easier to do that than to get into the process of, let me think about this, let me pray about this, let me read through this.
This is exactly why he's promising, if you think about it in his encapsulation there, that Christianity is going to be rewritten, that Judaism, as it were, is going to be rewritten, that Islam is going to be rewritten. Now, one has to ask the
But
question.
doesn't that bring into mind, at least in my mind, rewritten to be one religion?
Well, that's exactly the point. If you'll notice, these people, the reason that they want to engage those holy books, and I use that in quotations with respect to the Talmud and, of course, respect to the Quran, et cetera, et cetera. But when you think about it, the reason that they want to get to that is because they know that inherently there is opposition. And this is not a defense of Islam. This is not a defense of Judaism. I'm not going to defend those guys because God knows, as you were saying earlier, there are the mortal enemies of Christianity, of Christ, and this man crucified, and also of his gospel. However, there is something to be said about a pushback against what a lot of the globalists want to implement, that there is some pushback by Islam on these things and Judaism in respect to it. But the biggest group that they are targeting is Christians, because especially in the West, we technically are the biggest voting bloc. Although, if you were to ask people like Gabriel Hughes, as we were profiling earlier, he would basically tell you just sit down and don't participate at all and just do whatever they tell you, even if it means that they're going to destroy you and try to destroy the gospel.
Because even this is considered a pushback that we shouldn't be
Right.
carrying out.
Right. Well, but here's the thing, as we commented yesterday on our Telegram page. So Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, this so-called deeply religious Christian man,
Deeply.
he shepherds the passage of this legislation that is making its way now through the Senate, which includes earmarking for abortions. It includes earmarking for genital mutilation. It includes about $5 billion for continued fraud of what originally led to this whole situation in Minnesota to begin with. It includes a further crippling of the national debt in the country, further indebting us and inflating our currency and making life unaffordable for more and more Americans. This is the deeply religious man, Mike Johnson.
Deeply religious, deeply Christian.
But even though his image is carefully crafted, we're the ones that people take issue with because we're calling what he's doing evil.
How can you take up this issue? You're harming a brother that finally made his way up to a key position in government, and here you are ripping away at him.
Even though he's
How dare
indebting them.
You are
He
a
is-
bad human being. Not to talk about how bad you are in your faith walk and all the things that you say you do to represent Christ. You're awful, Gio. Just awful.
Awful. Before we get to what you were going to talk about with respect to the book of Revelation, I'd like to note one more thing, because I don't like to leave these things out there in the ether without giving people solutions as to how to fight back against these sorts of things. And it's going to take what we've talked about. You don't want to hear this. I know you don't want to hear this, but it's going to take that. How many times have we said, do your own research, read the necessary books, discern? It's going to take, as it were, your own efforts alongside, and I get it. You know, some of you are saying, man, I work long hours. That's why I listen to people like yourselves. Well, we've said, fine, we, as it were, we have done the studies on these things, but always verify things by the witness of 2 or 3. That is the Christian standard on these things. So do that. But here's the problem. Most Christians won't even do that. They'll just take whatever their personality will say, and they'll say, yeah, that sounds about right, and I'm going to adopt that without ever sitting down to think about the implications or necessary contradictions in their presentations and whatnot. And this, on top of that, to exacerbate the matter that a lot of Christians just don't know what's in the Bible to begin with in the first place. So why would they be even able to judge, as it were, between the accuracy of what they're reading on the physical page compared to what now the AI is spitting out? So if you're not familiar already with what the text has to say in and of itself, then you've already got a problem heading into this, shall we say, AI rewrite of the Bible, which is exactly, this is our point. This is exactly what they want to do. They want to rewrite it to fit, as it were, their own ideals. It's a Christianity, in essence, that far from being, shall we say, endorsing of signs and wonders and prosperity gospel, it's actually going to endorse the secular globalism that Harari and his friends are trying to peddle. It's another rewrite, as it were.
So when I hear Harari talking about AI taking over any and all things that have as the basis words, and this includes the 3 big religions, that's what they call them, of the world, questions come up. Number 1, how will AI take over the Bible? Will it be by arguing that after examining all available documents, something that AI can do quite easily, the AI rendered version should be the most trusted edition of the Bible? I believe that's one argument that will be presented. Here's another question. Does this taking over the Bible mean that editions, interpretations, commentaries, teachings, and sermons will be ultimately AI influenced and not human research and interpreted, and therefore AI in that manner has taken over the Bible and what Christians will consume? Will preachers, digital publishing houses, and the rest of the biblical information networks admit or reveal to the people that consume their products, Gio, that indeed they are consuming AI material and not humanly researched material? Well, this brings me to the following question. Will all of this bring about the new world religion headed by the false prophet? Yes, the Bible does talk about the false prophet, and it teaches us, the Bible, the book of Revelation teaches us that the false prophet will require the worshiping of the beast, of the image of the beast, of the Antichrist. Listen to Revelation 13:2. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. Well, we know that this is talking about authority when it talks about the horns and the 7 heads. But the interesting point here is coming out of the sea. What does that mean? Where does the Antichrist get his push, his roots? We don't need to figure that out. The Bible tells us, Revelation 17:15. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute, the whore, sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. So we see what brings forth the Antichrist. But then as we keep reading in Revelation 13:11 through 18, we notice that the second beast, the false prophet, does not come forth from the water or the ocean. It comes forth from the earth. Listen to what the Bible says about this. Revelation 13:11 through 18. And as you listen to this, Please pay attention to all the things that the false prophet will carry out. A lot of the times, on many, many occasions, when I listen to Bible prophecy teachers, they lay most of this at the feet of the Antichrist. But as you will hear with your own ears, as I read and share this with you, you will see that the individual doing all of this is the false prophet, and he will head up a one world religion.
Yep.
Could it be the one world religion created by AI because it has examined all the materials available and it has come up with a new worship system, a new religion for the totality of the
Even
world?
one that, to your point, they'll present as this is a conglomeration of all the religions of the world. And thereby we can have unity now. We can have peace because we all
Yes.
find one accord, as it were.
Revelation chapter 13, starting with verse 11. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. Little pause here, little parentheses. Some people believe that the earth here is not just the totality of the earth. They will point out that it's talking about the land, and they believe and they teach that the false prophet will be a Jew. For many years, I was taught the Antichrist will be a Jew. No, he follows the line of the other Antichrists that have come on the scene, Gentiles. But this individual, this is a little different. This guy might actually be a Jew, or he has connection to the Jewish people because he will dedicate himself to fooling the Jews. Jesus said, I came in the name of my Father and you rejected me. One will come in his own name, he you will receive.
I slightly smirk because, fitting the stereotype and all.
Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. So it's got this religious aspect to it, but in reality, at the core, it's a dragon. It's satanic. Verse 12. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf. And, here we go, made the earth and its inhabitants worship
There you go.
the first beast. So the worship of the Antichrist will take place.
Some will call that a monopolization, if, as it were, of worship and directed towards something that isn't Christ.
Well, people will not worship a human.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting, especially coming from Christians, because
Right.
we believe that Christ is 100% God,
Right.
100% human.
So I find this interesting that people will say that, but then they have no problems in idolizing athletes, politicians, et cetera, et cetera. But don't worry, people don't worship people. Absolutely not.
So it'll make the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. 13. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of the people. So this is mimicking what the prophets of old
Yeah.
used to do.
Yeah.
Verse 14.
And who would be familiar with that?
the Jewish
To your
people.
point.
Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth.
Of the earth.
Of
That's
the earth.
that's a pretty big number.
Unless we're talking about the land, but that's for another day.
Right.
It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Verse 15. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast. So look at all the things that the false prophet is accomplishing, so that the image could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed.
There you go.
It, talking about the false prophet, also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, verse 17, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666.
A lot of information there.
So if Harari is right,
Yeah.
that AI will take over all things that has as its foundation words, whether it be laws or religion, then he could be talking about the setup, the initial stages, the setup for the one world religion which will be held or promoted and pushed and controlled by the false prophet.
And the World Economic Forum, they are the globalist organization. And what I mean is they want to be known as the one that is the spearhead of that entire movement. What was it that Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, interestingly enough, another Jewish fellow, said during the most recent WEF consortium, he said that in his mind, what he'd like to promote and impose on all humanity is everything on a blockchain, meaning there will be no physical assets held by people, whether it be houses, cars, money, what have you. All of that would necessarily be digitized. But then you ask yourself, digitized how? Well, it would be controlled by one central organization. So to your point, part of what we see in the book of Revelation that is spoken of there is no one can buy or sell unless they have the mark and they render plebiscite, they render worship unto the beast. You can already see how that system is being formed in our day and age, and how digitization and the people whom are crafting this system are actually trying to accelerate us toward that a system of centralized control, and how everything that was mentioned thousands of years ago by the Apostle John, seen in this vision, is slowly but surely crafting itself to what the Bible foretold would happen.
So for your protection, your family's protection, you need to figure out, are you feeding on a proper biblical sermon every week?
Yep.
Well, what's a proper biblical sermon? Inspired by the Holy Spirit, delivered by your pastor because he has spent time in prayer, researching the topic, etc. Or are you feeding on AI information? This is your first step to take. And if you can't figure it out, if your pastor refuses to, or you have doubts as to where he's getting his information from and his sermons from, then you have to flee. It's that simple, because we're talking about making sure that at least you and your family don't cooperate with these things. You must push back.
Yep, exactly. Folks, like I said, I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow and to give you the particulars and give you my comments on what's been happening with respect to Minneapolis and whatnot. A few people have been asking us, what are your thoughts on this, that, and the other thing? And I've been writing a couple of short articles on my own channel on Telegram, Absolute Truth, absolutely, Absolute Truth, absolutely. And I'll be live streaming through that channel tomorrow, and probably YouTube. I have to set that up today. But suffice it to say that one of the things that I'd like to talk about is the necessary nuance to understand all of this, that there's always a reduction in the narrative to have you see things only from a particular side because someone wants to influence your thought process toward a particular action or against it. And one of the things that I've enjoyed doing throughout the years in my comments is to give you the 5,000-foot view of all things. It's part of what we do here on Irrespective also. If you think about it with respect to Harari's comments, that's what we've done. We've zoomed out to tell you what the intentions are, what the motives are, why they're doing this, why they're doing that. It's going to be a continuation of the same thing when I do this live stream tomorrow and possibly future live streams also. So if you haven't yet subscribed to that, Absolute Truth, absolutely on Telegram, please do so now. A couple of things before we sign off. Do not forget to subscribe. It helps us. It helps us immensely. You don't understand how much it helps us. If you not only subscribe and you hit the notification bell, please click on the thumbs up. Whenever there's organic interest on content, then the algorithms would understand that to mean that there is organic interest, and then they begin to suggest our content to others. So please do so if you have not done so yet. Do not forget to donate. It helps us to continue to put out this content for your edification. There is a QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Conversely, there's a link underneath the video player that you can click on to be taken to PayPal's website, where we process those donations and patronages. Last but not least, do not forget to follow us on X at Irrespective77, at Irrespective77. Remember, on Wednesday, we're going to tackle Elon Musk's comments.
So we are committing to Wednesday.
On humanoids. Okay. Exactly. I mean, everybody's so concerned now about the digitization of everything. Might as well just dive headlong into this subject matter. So on Wednesday, we're going to talk about whether or not you are going to be forced to have a humanoid in your presence. A lot of things, a lot of implications to that, by the way, including surveillance.
So Gio has let you in on what he'll be doing on his own, and I think it's only fair that I inform you as to what I will be doing. I will be starting the little tours.
The little tours?
Yes, I will take people to Little Mogadishu, Little China.
Got it.
Little Havana, Little Italy. So if you want to sign up for the little tours, give me a call.
There you have it, folks.
I'll get you out there. I can't promise I can bring you back, but I will get you out there.
That's all the time we have left for this edition. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. See you on Wednesday. Until then, may the Lord shine his face upon you.